Hello, I am Bjorn and I do movies, and today we are doing the finale of the Suicide Squad Part 4. I'm very excited for this one. This is the end of the movie we've been building up to, and oh, dog interruption, there it is, folks. We thought we were gonna go one Suicide Squad episode without dog interruption. I'm gonna like have to get like a crate and just leave you in it while I'm recording. Oh my god. I know y'all have been looking forward to this, so I won't make you wait much longer. Let's go ahead and get right into it.
Just a friendly reminder, this is part 4 of a series. If you have not seen parts 2 and 3 at least, I would highly recommend going back and watching those. Those are the first act and the second act respectively. They are mandatory, basically, to understand this. And I would also recommend watching Suicide Squad 3. It's a whole lot of things to recommend. This is a fairly far and along series at this point, but I would highly recommend going back for those. Alright, we're picking up right where we left off. The Suicide Squad has arrived in Belle Reve. They are assaulted by a group of regular criminals, and among them we also finally see Double Down, who appears briefly in the Suicide Squad James Gunn's movie, Angle Man, who is a supervillain obsessed with angles, and Killer Moth, a guy with moth wings. They've all got their suits and stuff, as we saw in the last part. The squad is preparing for a fight as the crooks close in. Electrocutioner says, "I got this. You guys go ahead. I can hold these guys." Clock King asks if he's sure. Electrocutioner says, "Yeah, I actually think you guys might be a hindrance to me. I'm going to go all out." We see him adjust the settings on his arms to the highest they'll go. "Sparks are really going to fly," he says. "You guys just make sure my bomb doesn't go off." Clock King says, "We will." The rest of the squad peels off and leaves him. Double Down steps forward and says, "Where do those bastards think they're going?" Electrocutioner says, "If you want them, you're going to have to make it through me." All the criminals are going to laugh. Killer Moth is going to say, 10 versus 1. This will be easy. We're going to hear the opening notes of AC/DC's Thunderstruck start to play. Electrocutioner is going to say, "Here's the thing. I have a propensity for shocking people. And let me tell you, you guys are going to get shocked. You didn't even notice you were barefoot." They all look down, and for the first time they realize they're wearing no shoes. Fairly common in prisons, actually. And they're standing on metal grates. Electrocutioner unleashes a huge volley of electricity. It flies off his suit and jumps from man to man, also electrifying the floor. They all begin to light a flame and burst with bolts of electricity. We see Killer Moth try to fly away, but his wing snags a metal pipe. His wings burst into flames like he's been hit by a bug zapper. Kind of a fun little visual gag. At this point, we're going to hear the chorus of Thunderstruck hit. Many of the men are on fire now. Their heads are blowing up. All the electricity. We're going to see Double Down's head with all the cards pop in particular. A couple of playing cards fall around him, and they're lit on fire by the electricity, adding to the visual spectacle of the sequence. And then we hear the fire alarm go off. Water begins to sprinkle down on top of Electrocutioner. He has only a moment. He says, "Oh fuck," and then begins to electrify himself as he's soaked with water. We see his head explode as his bomb's detonated by the electricity. And that's a rip for Electrocutioner. I think we all kind of knew that one was coming. We're going to cut to the prison hall. We see 2 prison guards firing at escaping prisoners. They kill 2 before one prisoner kills the left guard. The other shoots the criminal. He turns to find Cavalier. Cavalier stabs him in the stomach and in the heart with his rapier. He says, "You made the mistake of imprisoning the great Cavalier." He swishes his sword around in a very dramatic gesture, then wipes the blood off it with his shirt. Suddenly we hear the sound of metal scraping against concrete. Cavalier slowly turns around and we see the Reaper letting his scythes drag against the wall. Sparks fly up, making him look really menacing. "Cavalier," the Reaper says, "you have murdered and robbed. You have sinned, and the Reaper judges you guilty." Cavalier says, "Oh, come on, man," and sort of shrugs in a sarcastic gesture. "I'm a gentleman thief. I take from the rich and I give to the poor." The Reaper says, "You murder and steal. Call it what you will, my scythes will taste your blood." Cavalier says, "You can try." He swishes his sword around dramatically. They fight, and the Reaper rips Cavalier apart. It's a complete slaughter. Every single thing Cavalier tries to do, Reaper just deflects or cuts. He cuts him to ribbons. It's a pretty cool fight. Goes on for a little bit. Just imagine it in your heads. The Reaper takes off Cavalier's sword arm with a swing of his scythes. Cavalier falls to the floor, clutching at his armless hand. The Reaper says, "Reap what you sow, Cavalier." Cavalier says, "No, please, no." And the Reaper stands over him before stabbing him in the chest. He lifts his bleeding body up with the scythes and looks him in the eyes as he dies. Then he lets the body fall to the floor. He turns and walks down the hall, leaving the body behind. We're going to cut to the Belle Reve hallway. The Suicide Squad turns the corner and finds a group of escaping convicts. I mostly picked people who are visually distinctive and would immediately kind of tell you what their thing is just by looking at them, as well as a few returning characters. Specifically, besides the normal, crooks that are among them, we see Cryonic Man, an obscure ice-themed villain with like an ice cryo pack on his back. As far as I can tell, this guy is just a complete ripoff of Dr. Freeze, but like worse in every conceivable way. We've got Codpiece, a classic gag DC character. He's got a giant like penis cannon. Again, he would be a visually self-explanatory character. Calendar Man, who briefly appeared, played by Machine Gun, and then Mad Dog, the YouTube banned word guy, who he's just like a redneck criminal guy. In this first iteration, he's carrying around a bat. As soon as they see the squad, they immediately draw their weapons. Shade says, "I don't have time for this." He throws out a hand, and one of the spots from his duster flies off. It lands behind the goons. He teleports to it and then runs down the hall. The convicts watch him leave, but he's already too far away for them to catch him, so they turn back to the Suicide Squad. Flatline says, "Well, great. The one guy who knows what the fuck is going on just left us." Cryonic Man looks at them and says, "What's all this then?" And he stops. "Hey, I know you. You guys are the Suicide Squad. You want to lock us back up." Flatline says, "Honestly, we really don't." Codpiece says, "Sure, and I don't want to spend some alone time with you." He winks at her awkwardly. Flatline says, "Hey, how about that? Now I kind of do want to kill you." "What the fuck is that supposed to be anyway?" gesturing to his codpiece. Codpiece says, It's my codpiece. It's badass. You should be impressed." Flatline starts to laugh out loud. Codpiece fires a bullet from his codpiece. Flatline bends over, laughing, and the bullet misses her. It bounces harmlessly off Chemo, leaving a small dent. Flatline realizes he fired at her. She pulls on her knife rope and swings it. She catches it with her foot and launches it into Codpiece's leg. It bounces off the armor there and crashes into the coolant tank on the back of Cryonic Man. It explodes, killing Cryonic Man and freezing a large area. Codpiece is flash frozen. He falls over and shatters on the floor. The hall is covered in ice, and ice continues to fly forward. The squad dodges, except for Chemo, who's partially frozen to the wall. Sportsmaster clicks his heels a certain way, and ice skates pop out. This is another thing he has in his boots. There's a bit of a running gag with this guy that he always has things in his boots in the comic books, I've noticed. Earlier we saw him with skis, and now we've got him with ice skates. He pulls the staff off his back and turns it into a hockey stick with a razor blade at the end by turning the hilt. This is a thing we see him with all the time in the comic books. Sportsmaster says, "I've been looking for an excuse to use this for ages." He starts to skate across the ice. He uses the razor end of a hockey stick to behead a prisoner. He laughs like a kid. Calendar Man runs forward with a knife. He slips on the ice and falls down. Clock King shoots him in the head while he's on the ground. A guy tries to attack Flatline with a shiv. The Hat pulls a fireball out of the hat and then throws it, and engulfs the prisoner in fire. He starts screaming and flailing. He tries to run away but slips on the ice also. While he's on the floor, he dies, burning to death. Chemo tries to pull his leg free from the ice but can't. Mad Dog runs up to him and starts to hit him over the head with the bat. He hits him twice, and we hear Mad Dog start to howl. Chemo's unaffected though, because he's a giant metal man. He just grabs Mad Dog with his hand and opens his finger of his suit. We watch Mad Dog get a lethal dose of radiation. Bleeds from his eyes, gets the boils, then he kind of just falls over dead. 5 more guys turn the corner. The Hat pulls a black sphere from his hat. He throws it to Sportsmaster and says, "Sportsmaster!" Sportsmaster catches it and then drops it on the floor. He hits it with his hockey stick and it lands right in the middle of the incoming villains. It lets out a small puff of smoke and then a quick flash of light. Sportsmaster says, "What the hell, that's it?" But the men are all stopped in their tracks. They begin to slide apart piece by piece, almost as if they've been completely diced up. Sportsmaster says, "Jesus Christ, what the fuck was that?" And the Hat says, "I really don't know. That was not what I was trying to pull a grenade out of my bag. Sometimes it doesn't quite understand what I want." Chemo manages to break free from the ice. He pushes Mad Dog's body off himself. Flatline looks around at all the dead bodies and says, "I think we just killed half the prison." Clock King snorts. Sportsmaster says, "Hey guys, you should take a look at this." He's standing near the bodies of those that were killed by the weird grenade thing. They all walk over and we see Waller. Blood surrounds her and it's flowing from open wounds, but she's still breathing. For those who don't remember, she was stabbed by Cluemaster in the last episode. The Hat says, "She's still alive." Flatline says, "Holy hell, she looks like Swiss cheese." The Hat says, I think I can save her." He sets the hat on the ground and starts to dig through it. Sportsmaster says, "You better. She's the only one who can give us our fucking pardons." Clock King says, "Sportsmaster with me. We're gonna secure the bomb room. The rest of you, guard Waller and keep her alive. We need those pardons." Chemo says we could do that. Clock King and Sportsmaster continue down the prison hall. We see Flatline searching Waller's pockets. She pulls out her phone. She lifts up Waller's finger to it and unlocks the phone. Chemo asks, "What are you doing?" And Flatline says, "Snooping." We're going to cut to Shade. He enters the briefing room, the one with all the chairs, projector. We see this in every movie. As soon as he enters the briefing room, he sees Nightshade standing there. She smiles warmly when she sees him. "It makes sense it would be you here first, Shade. You were there at my beginning, and now I get to be there for your end." Shade says, "I'm not the one who will be losing this fight. In the state you're in, you can't withstand the Madness Vest." We see the weird shapes across this duster begin to undulate and move. Nightshade smiles and even giggles a little bit. "You may strike a frightening form to them, but do you know what I see when I look at you? Just the man. I fear nothing, Shade." Shade says, "This duster can do more than show fear." The shapes and colors in the duster flow into his hand and form a knife. He teleports forward by throwing one of the dots like he did earlier, and then tries to attack her. She dodges into the shadows, then reappears from the shadows under the desk. The shadows begin to coalesce into her hands, and she forms a spear made entirely from blackness. Nightshade says, "Oh, my Shade, you should come back to me. The people of this dimension just don't have the charm you do. It was you who freed me all those years ago." Shade replies with, "The greatest mistake of my life. I won't let you win. You've killed enough." And Nightshade says, "You're the one who's going to stop me. Oh, please, Shade. I made you. All that power you wield is mine. You were nothing before me." Shade attacks her with the color knife. She bats it away with her spear. He attacks her again and again, but she blocks and dodges with ease. Nightshade goes on the offensive. She attacks him with the spear twice. Shade dodges both, but barely. Her next attack is going to be a hit. The colorful shapes flow off his duster and onto his hand. They form a shield. He uses it to block the blow. Nightshade barely even notices. "I even miss our long conversations," she says. "You loved me once. We could have that again. What's worth saving here? This place is rotten to the core, even worse than your meta." Shade says, "The people. There is good here. You just choose not to see it." He rushes her with the swirling dagger once more. Nightshade just pulls the shadows up like a cloak, and then sends Shade through it. He vanishes from the room. We cut and see him stumble out of the shadows inside of a swamp, the swamp outside Belrive. He can see the prison in the distance. He turns and says, "No!" He starts to run back towards the shadow, but it's already closed. It's too late. He then turns and starts to run back towards the prison. We're going to cut back to Nightshade. She dusts her hands off, almost sarcastically, then turns to see Clock King and Sportsmaster enter the room. They both pull out weapons. Nightshade holds up a hand in a peace gesture. "At least hear me out before it comes to blood. Do that and I won't stop you from killing me." Sportsmaster says, "You expect me to believe that? My guess is you're stalling for your friends." Nightshade says, "I don't need allies to kill you." The lights begin to flicker. The shadows of the room are drugged towards her. They surround her and lift her up off the ground. She's floating on a web of shadows. She sends shadows snaking forward. They climb up Sportsmaster and Clock King's bodies. The shadows climb into their mouths and block them. We see each of them desperately try to scratch at them to remove the shadows, but it's useless. Nightshade lets a satisfied smile creep across her face, then flicks her hands. The shadows vanish, freeing the two squad members. They each start breathing heavily. Panic is in their eyes. They've realized they're facing a threat they can't handle. Nightshade says, "Are you satisfied? Hear me out and I know you'll join me." Clock King says, "Talk." We're going to cut back to Waller's body. Waller is coughing up blood. Her face is pale with blood loss. Flatline studies her phone with a frown. We see Chemo say, "We have to hurry. She won't last much longer." The hat says, "I'm working on it." He pulls his hand out of the hat with a bottle inside of it. It's got glowing purple liquid in it. "Got it," he says. He starts to move the bottle towards Waller. Flatline catches his hand. "Don't," she says. "What do you mean, don't?" the hat says. Flatline says, "There is no pardon." Chemo says, "What?" Flatline says, "It's all here. She wasn't going to let us go." It says, "In light of their exceptional performance, I believe it would be of use to keep the current team in Belrive for the foreseeable future." The hat's face turns to one of anger. "She tricked us. I knew a pardon was too good to be true." Flatline says, "We have to let her die. She'll never let us be free. Not until her sentence is up. But if she dies..." The hat nods. He slowly puts the bottle back into his hat. "Now that you mention it, this wasn't the right stuff. I'll just have to keep looking." We see Waller cough up blood again. Her eyes turn to look at them frantically. She's scared. Chemo says, "Let's talk about this. We're talking about killing someone innocent. Flatline says, I don't want to die, Matthew. She'll kill us, sooner or later. I've seen it. We don't have a choice. Besides which, Waller is hardly innocent. Chemo looks down at Waller. Her breathing becomes strained and then stops. The last of the blood gurgles from her mouth and she dies. Chemo says, this doesn't feel right. Flatline says, she made her choice and we made ours. Chemo shakes his head. I don't like it. Flatline says, neither do I. But if anyone had it coming, it was her. We're almost free. We can be normal again, just like you said you wanted. Come on. We gotta catch up with the others. Now we're gonna cut back to the briefing room. We'll see Nightshade start her little speech. She says, your captor is dead, and now you're free. I won't stop you from walking out of this prison. As you can see, it was actually my goal. But it's not my only one. I have lofty ambitions for this world. I've seen horrible suffering here, and I know you've seen it too. Abandoned by your own society, forced to fight for a government that hates you. I once stood where you stand now. She turns her head and reveals a scar from where her bomb was implanted. For the first time we understand that Nightshade was a member of the Suicide Squad. Sportsmaster says, you were in the Suicide Squad? And Nightshade says, most of my followers were. Even Orca is connected. She lost her son to one of Waller's missions. Waller didn't even have the decency to remember her son's last name. Why would she? I saved those I could from her and let them take their revenge. I gave them purpose. I could give you the same. Don't you want to hit the government that tortured and used you where it hurts? Don't you want to bring them to their knees? Clock King asks how. Nightshade casually strolls over to the computer and plugs in a flash drive. She turns on the projector. A map of the US pops up and we begin to see red circles appear around it. Coordinated chemical weapon attacks, targeting cities with large government facilities, will cut the head off the snake. These prison escapes were only a distraction for the so-called heroes. By the time they're done capturing their escaped convicts, it will be too late. Sportsmaster looks at the map. That's Central City. My daughter lives there. Nightshade holds up a comforting hand. We can warn your loved ones. As for the others, the power Waller hunted is real. I can bring the dead worthy of life back. Clock King looks at her and asks, you can bring anyone back? Nightshade says, anyone. The Sportsmaster says, you're not seriously fucking listening to this. Shade warned us about her. I'm not about to help you blow up the entire country. I fucking live in it. Come on, Talkman, think. How many kids will she kill? You said I could kill you if I wasn't interested. Well, I'm not. Nightshade says, very well. She holds her hands out as if surrendering. If that's your choice, then you can continue to live under the heel of better men. Remain a witness to the suffering of those around you and do nothing. Sportsmaster pulls out his javelin. It snaps rigid. He begins to approach Nightshade. Yeah, I've heard bullshit before, he says, and you reek of it. He points the javelin towards her and prepares to stab her. We hear a gunshot. A bullet hole appears in Sportsmaster's head. Blood runs down his face, and he slumps to the floor dead. We see Clock King behind him, holding a smoking pistol. He looks down on Sportsmaster with a look of shocked guilt. He regains himself and looks to Nightshade. I'll join you. I want to make them pay for what they did. I want them to hurt, and I want you to bring back my sister. Nightshade says, when this is all over, she will walk among the living again. I will mention that I came up with the idea of killing Sportsmaster because I put out a poll with several characters from the previous movie in it, and I could have made a mental note to myself that if someone who was still alive won the poll, I would kill them in the next movie, because I don't want anyone to get too comfortable liking a character. And of course, Sportsmaster won that poll. Unconnected to this, as soon as this video is done, there will be a pull-up with all of the living characters from this movie on it. If anyone wants to go there and vote for their favorite character, go right ahead. I promise there are no consequences to it. So, just vote, put your favorite character on that list. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you guys. Nightshade says, when this is all over, she will walk among the living again. Clock King nods. Nightshade says, I just need one thing from you. Clock King says, what? She says, I want your friends to join us. I had hoped to avoid death of any of them. This was, she gestures to Sportsmaster, unfortunate. As I said, I can relate to your struggles. Wait for them here. Join them again. Pretend you're one of them. Say you don't know what happened. And when the time comes, help them see reason. Clock King says, I can do that. A shadow portal appears behind Nightshade. She says, good. I'll be watching. And she vanishes. We see Flatline and the rest of the squad enter the room. She spots Sportsmaster's body. Flatline says, oh shit, what happened? Clock King says, a prison guard shot him. Didn't know who we were. We see Sportsmaster's blue ghost begin to appear from his body. This is from Flatline's perspective, obviously. He tries to speak, then feels the bullet hole in his head. He can't talk. He tries and tries again, but no words come out of his mouth. He looks at Flatline, and his eyes grow wide as saucers. He turns and points to Clock King. Flatline turns to look where he's pointing. Clock King notices. He says, "Oh, I forgot about your powers. A rare oversight." Flatline runs at him with fury. She pulls the knife rope out. She yells, "You bastard!" She throws the knife towards him, and he barely dodges it by jumping to the side. He pulls his gun out. Chemo says, "What the hell are you two doing?" Flatline yells, "It was him!" Clock King is about to shoot Flatline. She pulls her knife rope back, knocking the gun from his hand and slicing his arm. Chemo starts to point his arm towards Clock King. Clock King rushes Flatline. She throws a punch, but he catches it. Flatline kicks him in the shin, and then he pulls her arm free. Chemo says, "I can't use my powers. Flatline, you're too close." We can see the hat digging through his hat. He says, "I've got something for this. I just have to find it. God, I really need to organize this." Flatline goes on the offensive. She throws kicks and punches, but Clock King blocks everything. His timing is impeccable. Finally, Flatline lands a kick. She tries to follow it up with an elbow. The Clock King dodges, then punches her hard in the face. He hits her again and again until blood starts to run from her nose and mouth. She pulls her knife rope out and tries to cut his arm. He moves back, and Flatline throws the knife rope once more. Clock King catches it out of the air and then pulls the rope hard. Flatline is pulled towards him. He puts her in a chokehold and then holds the knife to her throat. He digs it in. He says, "I'm going to walk out of this prison." Flatline tries to struggle, but he pushes the knife harder against her neck. We see blood begin to well from the tip. "You two aren't going to stop me, or I will slit her throat ear to ear. Do you understand?" Chemo says yes, and the hat says yes as well. Clock King says, "All right." He starts to walk back to the hall using Flatline as a hostage. You see them move past the cells and the dead bodies on the floor. Chemo and the hat follow cautiously behind them. Flatline says, "You're gonna rot in hell for this." Clock King says, "Oh, I know, but your hands are just as dirty as mine." Flatline says, "I don't kill my own." Clock King says, "But you would if the price were high enough. That's just the sort of people we all are." Suddenly, a man steps into the hall in front of them. This is Penny Plunderer, and a surprise reveal. He says, "The Suicide Squad. So we meet at what the hell are you doing?" He notices that they're like killing each other. Clock King says, "I don't have time for this. Move, damn it." Penny Plunderer says, "No, I'm the Penny Plunderer, and I'm here to destroy you." Flatline says, I'm sorry, did you say the Penny Plunderer? If you're gonna plunder somebody, start with this asshole." She tries to struggle against Clock King. He says, "Shut up," and puts the knife tighter against her neck. We see more blood well. Penny Plunderer says, "You were trying to put us back in prison. I heard. That makes you a copper." As in the pun for a police officer. "I hate cops as much as I love pennies." Clock King says, "I don't give a fuck who you are. I said move, damn it." Penny Plunderer yells, "Eat copper." He throws pennies up into the air, and then they fly towards the squad like bullets. This is a particularly zany sequence, and I thought it would be really funny to put it in after a very serious, dramatic moment. One rips into Flatline's arm, another catches Clock King in the shoulder. He recoils back, and Flatline slips away. She scrambles back towards Chemo in the hat. Clock King yells, "No!" He turns to catch her, but the Penny Plunderer yells, "You dare turn your back on the Penny Plunderer? You think you can mock me like everyone else? Try your luck against copper wires." The electrical wiring that runs up and down the prison begins to move like a snake. It flies out and catches Clock King's arm. The main lights in the room begin to flicker on and off, and the red backup lights kick on. If you have never seen this, often places will have red backup lights that run on like a backup generator if the main power infrastructure is damaged. This is going to give our final fight some cool atmosphere. With his free hand, Clock King pulls out his pistol. He fires 4 shots down the hall. 2 hit Penny Plunderer in the chest. He coughs up blood and falls to the floor. He says, "Lead. No fair." Of course, this version of Penny Plunderer is not like the comic books. They give him the ability to control copper, the element specifically. So pennies, copper wires, and that's really it. He's more powerful, but only marginally. The wires fall away from Clock King's arm. He turns just in time to see Flatline reach Chemo. Clock King runs around the corner just as the finger of Chemo's suit opens. Chemo says, "He got away." Flatline says, "You gotta go after him." Chemo says, "I can't do that. You're hurt. We have to get you help. Let's get you back where we know it's safe. I don't know how many more of these insane assholes are running around." The hat says, "I've got something that can help her. It is so much harder to find stuff when you're sober." He pulls out the same purple bottle from before. "It'll take an hour or so, but you'll feel better. At least I think." He reaches in again and pulls out a bottle of tequila. Chemo asks, "How's that going to help her?" And the hat says, "It's not. It's going to help me." He takes the cap off and takes a swig. We're going to cut to Clock King. He's moving through the prison in a hurry. He keeps looking over his shoulder until he feels it's safe. He stops and puts his hand to the wound on his shoulder. It comes away with blood. He looks ahead for a moment. In the flickering red light of the emergency lights, we see the Reaper standing still. His sides still drip with the blood from Cavalier. He studies Clock King, then says, "I know you. The Clock King. You're a killer. I find you guilty." Clock King says, "I don't know who you are, but you really don't want to fuck with me right now. I'm having a hell of a day." The Reaper just walks towards Clock King. We see him in flashes through the flickering red lights. Between the flickers, the Reaper vanishes. Clock King searches the darkness around him, but he can't find him. We hear the Reaper's voice come from the darkness. "Tick-tock, tick-tock. Your time is up, Clock King." He launches an attack from the darkness. He scratches a large gash across Clock King's chest. Clock King begins to fire wildly into the dark with his pistol. In the brief flashes of the gunfire, we see the Reaper move in and slice again. This time it's Clock King's arm. Clock King drops the gun from his hand. Clock King pulls the knife free from his belt. We see him spin around in the flashing light looking for the Reaper. Suddenly Reaper appears again. He makes a swing for Clock King's head. Clock King blocks it with his knife. Reaper swipes across his chest with the second scythe. Clock King falls to the floor on his knees. The Reaper looms above him. He raises his thighs high into the air. He says, "Reap what you've sowed." A knife sticks through Reaper's throat. He feels it with a hand, and then spins, attacking Cluemaster, who stabbed him. Even with the blood running from his throat, he fights. He slashes and attacks. Cluemaster dodges and barely survives. We see him getting kind of scratched up and cut. Even in this state, the Reaper is a force to be reckoned with. But he slows and falls to the ground before dying from blood loss. Cluemaster, who's sliced up and terrified, says, "Jesus." Clock King says, "Are you with Nightshade?" And Cluemaster says, "I am. She should be coming for us any time now." He holds out a hand and helps Clock King to his feet. "Welcome to the Shadow Society, Clock King." Almost as soon as he says it, a shadowy portal opens up next to him. Cluemaster says, "Follow me." He steps into the portal and Clock King follows him. We're going to cut to the briefing room again. We see Flatline entering the briefing room with the rest of the squad. Shade is studying Sportsmaster's body. He says, "I take it they're gone?" Flatline says, "Yeah." Shade says, "Damn it all. I failed." Flatline goes to Sportsmaster's body. We see Sportsmaster's ghost again. He tries to speak, and yet again he fails. He shakes his head and then walks over to the computer. He points to the flash drive Nightshade left. Flatline turns the computer on and pulls up the flash drive. She sees the map. "Holy shit," she says. "Guys, take a look at this." The rest of the squad walks over. They look on the map with horror. Chemo says, "That's got to be every city in the US. What do the red circles mean?" Shade says, "I've got a few ideas. None of them are good." Flatline says, "We have to stop this." And Chemo says, "How?" Flatline says, "Shade, you know their leader." Shade says, "I do." He says, "She's a destroyer, a creature from another world that wants only to spread darkness and death. She is the shadow cast by a world of pure black." Flatline says, "Well, I want to kill her." Shade says, "That will not be easy. It may even be impossible. If you want your world to survive, we're going to have to find a way." Flatline says, "I think I know somebody who can help. If she can't kill this shadow, then nothing can." Chemo says, "Wherever we go, we need to make it fast. It won't be long before the police show up." The hat drunkenly throws his hands up. He's lounging in one of the chairs in the briefing room. He tosses his hat to the ground and it grows big. "That's no issue. Give me the location of your friends. We'll take the travel stones again. It's no problem," he says drunkenly. Flatline says, "Give me a second." She turns to Sportsmaster's ghost. She says, "Are you ready?" He nods. She says, "I'm sorry," touches his spirit, and then Sportsmaster's ghost vanishes. She bends over and closes the eyes of his body. She looks somber. She says, "He was a jerk and an asshole, but I liked him. He didn't deserve to die like this. All he wanted was to get back to his kid, to be better. I'm gonna get revenge. Take us here." She shows the hat her phone. He sort of drunkenly tries to look at it, and then nods. They enter the door to the hat. We're going to see them sort of walking through the narrow hallways and twisting labyrinth of the hat for a little bit, while the song Hope in Hell plays, sort of letting the somber moments that followed set in. And then we're going to see them arrive at the stones from before. The hat cuts his hand and places on the stones. He says the address, and then there's a flash of light. We're going to cut to a large house with a nice yard. The squad appears on the lawn. They all look around. Flatline says, "This is nicer than I was expecting." Kima says, "Who is your friend?" Flatline says, "You wouldn't know her. She walks up to the door and rings the bell. We hear a girl's voice call out from inside. The girl says, "I'll get it." The door unlocks, revealing Dorothy Spinner, the character from the last movie who can summon Candlemaker and any other imaginary friend she has. She looks up at Flatline and gasps. She says, "Flatline, you got out." Flatline says something like that. Dorothy hugs her. She says, "I'm so glad you're okay. I mean, we heard you guys were on another mission. I was worried." Flatline says, "That's actually why I'm here. We need some help. Are your friends around?" We hear another shout from inside the building. It's a male voice. He says, "It depends on who's asking." We see Bloodsport step into the entryway. This is, of course, Idris Elba's Bloodsport from The Suicide Squad. He has his transforming gun in his hand. He says, "Well, shit. Did Waller send you? She knows better than to play games with us." Flatline says, "Waller is dead." He lowers the gun. Bloodsport says, "Are you sure?" Flatline said, "I saw the body myself. We made sure she died. We couldn't be here if she hadn't." He nods as if it makes sense and says, "All right, follow me. I have to do something." They move into the house. It's got a lot of nice furniture and some paintings. It's basically a mansion. Flatline says, "All this is yours?" Dorothy says, "Not exactly. We move a lot." He says it's more like we're borrowing the house, but it's without permission. She says, "Where's Sportsmaster? He was supposed to be on the mission too." Flatline says, "He didn't make it." And Dorothy says, "Oh." We follow Bloodsport into a room filled with computers. We see Ratcatcher 2 sleeping on a couch. She wakes up as they walk by. "What's with all the noise? Who are these people?" Bloodsport says, "Friends for now." Ratcatcher shrugs and lays back down. Bloodsport takes a seat at the computer and starts typing. Flatline looks over his shoulder. "What are you doing?" Bloodsport says, "Pissing on Waller's grave." We see him upload the Court of Maltese files onto the internet. When he's done, he turns to face them. He says, "What do you want?" Flatline says, "We ran into something bad. A group that could hurt a lot of people." She hands him the flash drive. He plugs it into the computer and looks at the map. "What is this?" Shade says, "A plan to do harm to your world created by a creature called Nightshade. I promise that this is only the beginning. Nightshade will stop at nothing to destroy your world." Bloodsport turns to Dorothy and says, "Do you trust them?" Dorothy says, "I trust Flatline. She saved my life. And she's nice." Bloodsport says, "Okay, then we'll help. But if I find out you're fucking with me, I'll kill you." Suddenly the back door kicks open. We see Harley Quinn, Boomerang, King Shark, and Blockbuster enter through the back door. King Shark is covered in dirt and blood. Harley says, "Nanawe, you're not supposed to eat the chickens, you're supposed to eat the eggs." King Shark says, "I'm sorry, I was hungry." Blockbuster says, "Blockbuster." Again, these are all repeating their known character traits. Harley says, "Dubois, King Shark totally fucked up that guy's garden and, oh, we have guests." Bloodsport says, "Some more strays from Waller." Chemo looks at them and says, "Just who are you guys?" To which Bloodsport replies, "We're the Suicide Squad." We're going to cut the credits and hear the song "Stick Up" by Grandson play. So I guess I can talk about what the second part of this is going to be. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's the Suicide Squads, as I'm probably going to call it. Maybe there'll be an undertitle, I don't know. But it's going to be 3 different Suicide Squads all fighting each other. The Shadow Society, who used to be the Suicide Squad. Obviously, the Suicide Squad 2016 squad combined with different iterations from my movies. All in one team. The reason I felt comfortable bringing in Bloodsport and these guys is I think it's pretty clear at this point with what's happening at DC that there's not going to be a Suicide Squad 3, a real one. So I felt comfortable enough using these characters now, knowing that we probably aren't going to see them again. That would be my guess. I think the next movie is my favorite one. It's really weird and wacky. There's a lot more death in it. This one I was pretty tame on the deaths, actually. And I should point out that y'all filled out a survey I did on my channel, a poll, choosing between 2 and 3. And I want you to know you saved the Hat's life. I was really contemplating killing his ass. And the poll that said there would be 3 members, it was how many members would there be left on the squad at the end? And 3 won out. So you saved the Hat. So congratulations. So there is an after credits scene. We're going to see Plastique in some sort of base. I don't know where it is. She's standing next to Nightshade. She says, "You didn't tell him the truth." Nightshade says, "Clock King's not quite ready for it yet." Plastique says, "What? Is he not keen on ending the world?" Nightshade says, "He will be. He just has to see the true vision we have for the future." She leans over the table, and the camera pans over, and we can see a map of the whole world. Red dots are almost entirely across it, placed in every major city and country. Nightshade says, "For now, let him believe it's just a chemical attack, and only in the United States." She looks out a window. It overlooks a factory. We see one of the portals that Calculator made in the mall in the previous film. It's being built inside this base. Nightshade says, yeah, he wouldn't understand it yet. The camera pans back over to the map once more as we hear the song End of the World by Children of Aphrodite play. And we're going to cut the credits for good. This is the second after credit scene. We see a woman climbing through a metal fence in the rain. Lightning flashes and we see a sign that says, under quarantine by U.S. government. She moves through the dark until we see her enter a building. Lightning flashes again and we can see Comforton Mall. This is of course the mall where the final fight in Suicide Squad 3 happens. She continues to move through the mall until we see her reach the ruins of the portal that was created by Crazy Quilt and Calculator in the last movie. She places a hand on it and we see her cast some kind of magic, saying a strange language and moving her hands around to form runes in the air. We see illusions of people in the past. They're transparent and glow different colors. They reenact the events from the end of 3. We see the fight. We see Superman appear from the portal. We see Crazy Quilt get killed. We see Acid die. All of it happens. She swipes her hand and it begins to play faster. We see the ambulance arrive and pull Flatline out of the rubble. They start to move the bodies away. Scientists and military men come in and they start to move around the building quickly. We can see that they're studying the ruins of the portal. They continue to move in and out at lightning speed like you're playing it on fast forward. A single woman strolls in on the fast forward and begins to study the portal. The mysterious mage throws up a hand and stops it. She studies the illusion and we can see that it's Nightshade. The woman reaches out a wary hand and touches Nightshade. Her eyes glow wide and we see flashes of the future. We see Gotham City being destroyed by shadows. They cling to the buildings and destroy everything they touch. We see men and women and children running through the streets. They're getting grabbed by the shadows and ripped apart. In the last flash, we see Shade's dead body. Blood runs from his eyes and there's puncture wounds in his face and in his stomach and in his chest. And his cloak is missing. The woman steps back from her illusion and waves it all away. She says, "Oh my God." And we end for good. That's the last after credit scene. I won't say who that character is, but if you can guess it, let me know. All right, well that was it. Once again, this dog is breaking the illusion that any time has passed between me recording the intro and the outro. I did kill Sportsmaster. I know a lot of y'all really liked him and weren't expecting that. You have zero sympathies for me. This is just a reminder, there is a poll up right now. Go vote for your favorite character from the movie, guys. No consequences at all to that poll. Literally nothing, so just don't even think about it, just go vote. Alright, thank you. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I'll have the next Deadlands out pretty quickly and then the first Thunderbolts after that, so look forward to that. Alright, I'll talk to y'all later.